What if Naruto didn't walk the path alone, but built the ultimate harem with legends like Haku, Tsunade, Mei, and more? Milky Way Fire. Welcome to Fox Fan Fiction, the place where Naruto's destiny takes a whole new turn. Let's dive into part 1 of this epic journey. Chapter 1. Kagaya Otsutsuki Lives. 10,000 years ago, a young orange-haired boy unleashed his final assault upon his enemy as the sky turned dark black. This young man's name is Ichigo Kurosaki. However, while his enemy is dead, the consequences of unleashing the final Getsuga Tensho known as Mugetsu were grave. The attack used all his power, but his life as well, so unless he received some sort of divine intervention he would die never to be reincarnated as he faded into oblivion. Little did he know that divine intervention is exactly what he would receive. As he lay there dying, all his friends and family are there with him. "Kurosaki-kun, please don't die," Orihime said with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Orihime, but I knew the risks when I used that attack to finish off Aizen. I knew this was a one-way trip for me, but maybe I'll see again in the next life." Ichigo, he said with a smile. Little did he realize just how true that statement was. "Kurosaki Ichigo, you have done the Soul Society and the world of the living a great service. I don't know how we can repay such sacrifice, but if it is within my power, please ask." The head captain asked, kneeling down to take Ichigo's hand in his as a comforting gesture. Ichigo coughed while squeezing the head captain's hand. "I can already feel my life fading, so listen to me, Gramps, and listen well. I want every single one of those fuckers in Central 46 that call themselves a government executed and removed from power. In their place, I want a truly noble governing body installed but watched over by the Gotei 13 to ensure the mistakes of the past don't happen again. Next, I want the records of the Vizards, Kazuki, Tessai and Yoruichi wiped clean of any wrongdoing and their positions within the Seraite restored so they may return if they choose. Finally, watch over my friends and family for me and ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. I also want you to pass on my values to the next generation of Soul Reapers. When they graduate from the academy, tell them this, primo genere amicorum D and postmodem, for it is at the core of all my beliefs." He said. "But, what does it mean, Ichigo-kun?" Yukitake asked. Ichigo looked at him, forcing himself to remain conscious long enough to answer his question. "Family first, friends second. Then yourself," he said as the life finally faded from his eyes. The ones that took it the hardest were Yoruichi, Rukia, Orihime and his sisters. They were all openly crying at Ichigo's sacrifice. Just then, there was bright flash and a new person had joined the grieving party. Who are you?" A grieving Yoruichi asked. "Forgive me, young one. I couldn't help but notice this young man give his life for the sake of his friends and loved ones, and I just had to come down and pay my respects. It amazes me that he could generate that kind of power without even a proper Zanpakuto. Not only that, but to be so noble and self-sacrificing and without an arrogant bone in his body, such a unique quality that is rarely ever seen these days. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Amaterasu, primordial goddess of creation and the universe," she said. A collective gasp was heard all around as she introduced herself. "Now that we know who you are, why are you here?" Karen asked with tears in her eyes. "My apologies, little one, I came to collect his soul for reincarnation," the goddess replied. "But we thought the final Getsuga Tensho destroyed the soul of the user, so reincarnation wasn't possible," a shocked Ishin said with a raised eyebrow. "Normally you would be correct. However, when there is a noble sacrifice involved, I can override that," she replied, and with snap of her fingers, she collected his soul. "There we go, and now since that is done, one final bit of business, then I shall take my leave." "Wait, will we ever see him again? Kurosaki-kun means so much to everyone, especially me, Rukia and Yoruichi and his sisters," Orihime asked with tears streaming down her face. "I am sorry you will not see him again any time soon, Orihime-chan. When you die, I will come to collect your souls and you shall be reincarnated into the same era as Ichigo-kun. Except for Yoruichi-chan, she is coming with me now," Amaterasu said. "Why me and no one else?" Yoruichi exclaimed with a panicked look on her face. Now Yoruichi-chan, calm down please. You do not realize this, but your title, Goddess of Flash, is actually quite appropriate, and not for your propensity to tease Ichigo-kun by parading around the house naked, but for your speed in Shunpo and because you have divine blood flowing through your veins. Did you know that the very first members of the Shihoin, Kuchiki, Kyoraku, Yukitake, Fan, Shiba and Yamamoto clans were demigods, and your clan is of my blood. It is why you are given the title, Sacred Armorers, as you guard all of the divine artifacts, but also your speed was inherited from my son and I, as well as your own hard word. The first Shihoin was my son, his name was Jashiro, as well as Captain Yukitake's namesake. His speed and mastery of Shunpo were worlds apart from your and Captain Soi Fan's. It was him that made Ho-Ho mastery a requirement to join the punishment force. I sent him here when he came of age and he started the Shihoin clan shortly thereafter. I do not have a last name, so he created the surname, Shihoin, because he thought it was cool. By all rights that makes me your great-grandmother 22 generations removed. Amaterasu said, only to receive a hug from Yoruichi. But what does that have to do with the rest of us? Soi Fan asked. That brings me to my final bit of business. Each of the clans I mentioned have 5 years to honor young Ichigo's dying wish, and after that I am bringing you back to the realm of the gods. We gods miss our grandchildren and we want you all back home with us. Isshinyu will inform Kukaku and Ganju about everything that has happened and move them to Karakura town with you, where I will pick all of you up in 5 years. When Ichigo is reincarnated, you cannot be his father, nor can Yuzu and Karen be his sisters, but the three of you, Kukaku and Ganju, can adopt him as a nephew or little brother if you wish, so that you can be part of his life. As for the rest of you, I am sorry to say that because you are demigods of minor gods or gods that have already faded, you will not live long enough to see his reincarnation, but I will reincarnate you into someone close to him and allow you to leave his reincarnation a gift of your choosing. Yamamoto-kun, sadly you only have about 800 years left. I suggest within those 5 years you focus on making peace with my great-grandnephew Yuwatch and his Quincy's, inform Yuwatch has happened and give him this from me. This technique should help you enter the shadows of Soul Society, and she tapped his forehead, giving the needed knowledge. Goodbye everyone, I will see you in 5 years, she said, handing him a glowing golden orb before disappearing in a golden flash. 2 years later. Yama Jii, is it time to complete Ichigo's requests? Kyoraku asked. It is. It's just that, what I am about to do I wish I didn't have to. However, Lady Amaterasu demands it, so I have to. While I'm gone, I want you, Hana and Captain Kuchiki to execute the members of Central 46. He said, tapping his cane before entering the world between the Soul Society and the real world, the Shadow Realm. Halt. Who goes? A low-level Quincy shouted. I am Captain Commander of Gote 13 Shigekuni Genryusai Yamamoto. I have come on urgent business to speak with Yuwatch, please let him know that I am here. Yamamoto replied. Hi. Right away, sir, said soldier exclaimed before running to tell his master. My lord, a Shinigami has arrived and wishes to speak with you. It sounded urgent. The soldier said. Very well. Show him in. Yuwatch replied. Jugram, when our business is concluded, kill the Shinigami. Yes, your highness. Jugram replied. Doors to the throne room opened and every Quincy there was speechless to see who it was. Yamamoto. What are you doing here? Yuwatch exclaimed, drawing his blade. Hold, Yuwatch. I didn't come here to fight, was the captain's reply. Then why are you here? The Quincy king asked with a questioning but confused gaze. To make peace, of course, was his reply. Ha. You come here after 1,000 years. I expect me to believe you want, especially after our past history. I should kill you right now for your insolence. Yuwatch replied. You could, but then you would not hear the message I came to deliver. The aged captain replied as he tossed Yuwatch the orb Amaterasu handed him. The second Yuwatch touched it, a holographic message began to play. Hello Yuwatch-kun, I am fairly certain you know who I am, so introductions are not necessary. What Yamamoto-kun told you is the truth. He does want peace, so please listen to him. He speaks for me in this matter. I will see you in 5 years. Be ready to leave by then. I look forward to seeing you then, the hologram said, and then disappeared. All of the Quincy's were shocked by this, so much so that they couldn't speak. The head captain actually chuckled when he saw this. Oh my, what's the world coming to? The great and powerful Quincy king is speechless. I hope that isn't a sign of the coming apocalypse. The head captain said with a mirthful grin. Ha, very funny Yamamoto. Now why are you here? I seriously doubt it was to deliver Lady Amaterasu's message then leave. Yuwatch replied. You are correct. You know me better than any of the other Quincy, and I know that you have been watching us since our last fight 1000 years ago, so you know that me asking for help from anyone is something my pride wouldn't allow, especially asking for help from you of all people, but that is exactly what I am doing. I need your help, you watch. At this declaration, Yuwat's eyes widened in shock. I must say, given our history, I am shocked, but at the same I am intrigued. Please continue. He replied. I have been given divine authority by Lady Amaterasu and the High Council to make certain changes to the Soul Society, changes that I always believed were needed but C46 would never allow, and that is where you come in. But before he could continue, Yuwatch interrupted him. You mean to say that Lady Amaterasu and the High Council gave you such authority? Why now and not 1000 years ago when the Soul King and C46 ordered our extinction? He asked. The Soul King began falling out of favor with the High Council after the Quincy's were ordered exterminated all those years ago, and recent events were the final straw. I assume you know of Aizen's treachery and the resulting war 2 years ago. Replied Yamamoto. I do. He killed C46 and fled with the Hogyoku and 2 of your captains. However, what does that have to do with why you are here? Yuwatch asked. Before the end and during the war we had reinstated C46, but I knew they were just in it for themselves, as did a brave young man named Ichigo Kurosaki that fought alongside us during the war. The war ended faster than we all expected, and young Kurosaki used a sacrificial technique which used not only his Ryutsu but his life force to attack Aizen and put him down for good. When it was over just before he died, he made 3 requests of us, all of which have been completed except one. The formation of a new governing body. Yamamoto replied. And you want me to be part of this new government of yours? Yuwatch asked. No, but I do need 6 of your Quincy's, preferably those of a high rank and station. The C46 always had 46 members, 43 normal members and 3 sages. Well, to honor Ichigo's dying wish we are forming a new truly balanced governing body. 6 Quincy's, 6 Arankar and 6 Soul Reapers, with one of each of those groups acting as a sage, so the new government would be completely impartial, acting in the best interest of keeping the balance of all 3 worlds. Yamamoto replied. Very well. I agree to your proposal and help you honor young Ichigo's dying wish. I will appoint Sternritters B. Jugram Hashwolf, X. Leal Barrio, E. Bambietta Basterbine, T. Candace Catnip, P. Meninas McCollin and D. Askin Nak Lavar. With Jugram acting as the Quincy sage. Yuwatch said. Agreed. Yamamoto said. That young boy must have meant a great deal to you for you to be here asking for my help. Yuwatch replied. Indeed he did. I never got the chance to tell him this, but I was proud of him and thought of him as a grandson, and not telling him is something I will always regret. He always did what was right even if it conflicted with the orders he was given, and while he never openly defied orders he always found a way to bend the rules and do things his way, damn the consequences. I always saw a bit of my younger self in him. It's a shame he had to die putting that bastard Aizen down. If he'd lived, I would have made him my successor. The head captain replied. Wow, if you think that highly of him, I am sorry I never got the chance to meet him. But, why all this talk of a successor? I thought surely you'd outlive all of us. Yuwatch said. You'd think so, but I don't have much time left. I'm old, Yuwatch. I was already 1000 years old when we had our fight 1000 years ago. That means I'm 2100 years old now. Normally, as the grandson of Kagutsuchi, the god of fire, many generations removed, my own flame wouldn't hurt me and even help to regenerate me and heal my wounds, essentially making me immortal. But because of an adversary I fought long before I met you, I used my Bankai before I was ready and scorched my soul quite badly, and the price was immortality. I only have 800 years left, which is why I am here now asking for your help in honoring Ichigo's dying wish. When my business is concluded, I plan to retire and live out my remaining years in Takamagahara with my family, maybe teach young gods how to be warriors. He replied. We have an accord, Genryusai. I will send the 6 Quincy we agreed upon to pack their things and leave with you within 20 minutes. Yuwatch said, shaking Genryusai's hand. 20 minutes later they had all arrived back in Soul Society, and the first thing they were told was C46 had been executed. The members of the new governing body were waiting for them at the old C46 complex. Genryusai could tell his last 3 years in Soul Society were going to be interesting. If he only knew how right he was. 3 years later. In the 3 years since the new governing body took over, many changes were made. The biggest change that was made was that C46 was relabeled C18 to accommodate the new members. Amaterasu surprised everyone and deposed the old Soul King, promptly executed him and named Yhwach as his replacement as well as God of Souls, and since he used Quincy for the Royal Guard and the former Royal Guard were elevated in status to High Guardsmen of the Celestial Temple in Takamagahara. Any laws the old C-46 passed were repealed and thrown out and new more lenient ones put in their place. Amaterasu and the gods came and got their grandchildren 6 months earlier than expected. After that everyone lived happy lives. 7,395 years later in Takamagahara. Well, sister, has it happened yet? Tsukuyomi asked her sister. Yes, it has. That bastard sage has sealed Kagaya-chan and the Jubi in the moon. However, before that he split the Jubi's power 9 ways and created 9 demonic beasts. She replied. So, what are we going to do? Tsukuyomi asked. First, we are going to wait until that fool is dead and then we will get the tailed beasts' help in reviving their grandmother. Amaterasu replied. But Hagoromo Otsutsuki, that bastard sage has the Rinnegan. He will become a god upon death and not even we can stop it. The moon goddess exclaimed. But that is where you were wrong, sister. Kagaya was goddess when she was sealed. She was granted divinity by me when she ate the fruit of the Shinju and adopted by me, which means the Rinnegan that Hagoromo used was a gift from the gods, a gift that he misused when he betrayed and sealed my daughter, his mother. Such betrayal cannot and will not go unpunished. When he dies, he will spend the rest of eternity in our sister's cold embrace and there is nothing he can do about it. Amaterasu replied. 80 years later. Ah. It only took 80 years, but I finally died and became a god thanks to my Rinnegan. It is a shame those foolish gods and those idiotic Biju have no idea what I have planned. Akane and her siblings have no idea I was just using them as a means to an end. When the child of the prophecy is born, I will finally make my move and change the heavens in my image, and that fool Yhwach and the Soul Society will not stop me. Hagoromo said. Just then he felt a presence behind him and immediately he knew who it was and his eyes went wide. Amaterasu-sama, Tsukuyomi-sama, Shinigami-sama, Susanoo-sama, Yhwach-sama, what do I owe the pleasure of your visit? He said. Oh, you mean you don't know why we're here? Yhwach questioned. Indeed, it seems strange for someone touted as a prophet not to know. I think he was just faking it all these years. Susanoo said, making Hagoromo sweat. I agree, I mean it does seem strange for someone with the Rinnegan, an eye gifted by the gods said to be able to see the past and the future, enable the bearer to have an affinity for all the elements and revive the dead, that very someone should know why we're here instead of playing dumb thinking we didn't see what he did. Amaterasu said. An ignorant little twat like you used the eye we gifted you to seal his mother, my daughter, away. She exclaimed as tears streamed down her face. You have betrayed us and used your gifts against the gods, such an act will not go unpunished. Tsukuyomi said. What do you mean? I did the gods' bidding and sealed away a great evil and you dare accuse me of betrayal? He shouted as he tried to defend himself. Yes, we do accuse you of betrayal. And for that your divinity will be stripped from, and I have come to collect you and take you to the underworld for all eternity for your sin against us. The Shinigami said as Amaterasu snapped her fingers and turned Hagoromo into a regular soul. And Shinigami then waved her hand and sent to the underworld to be tortured for all eternity. 20 years later. It has been 20 years since the Hagoromo was stripped of his godhood and sealed away in Yomi, and now the gods stand before 9 fully grown tailed beasts, showing them their memories of Hagoromo's conversation he was having with himself. That is what we heard saying to himself right after he died. Now we need your help to right the wrong he perpetrated against my daughter and the Jubi. Amaterasu said. What would you have us do? Akane asked. Simple, I want each of you to give us a portion of your energy so that we may revive the Jubi and separate my daughter from her. That is all, nothing more and nothing less. The sun goddess replied. The Biju agree and poured their energy into a giant ball, which was then amplified and fed to the husk that was the Jubi. After a few moments there was a bright flash and before them stood the Jubi in all her demonic glory, and next to her stood a beautiful woman with white hair that went to her ankle and 2 horns sticking out of her head, one on either side. You all know what Kagaya looks like, so I won't rehash that, as she looks the same as in canon. The Jubi was extremely beautiful herself, standing at 5 feet 9 inches tall, long flowing black hair that stopped just below her ass, and 2 gold slited eyes with 3 rings and 9 tomio 3 on each ring. Both women looked up to see where they were, and to their surprise they saw the other Biju and the gods. Ama-chan, Oka-chan. Both women shouted as they gave Amaterasu a hug which she gladly returned. Hello Kikyo-chan, Kagu-chan, it is good to see you again, especially considering what that idiotic sage did to you. Amaterasu said. Kagaya, Kikyo, these are the Biju, they helped us rescue you from your confinement. Go on you lot, introduce yourselves. She said, pointing to the 9 Biju. I am Shukaku, I am Mitabi, I am Isobu, I am Son Goku, I am Kokuo, I am Seiken, I am Chome, I am Gyuki, and I am Akane. They said, introducing themselves. Thank you for helping to revive us Kikyo-chan, and we really appreciate it. Kagaya said with a smile as the Buju smiled back. Kagaya-chan, I have good news for you as well as Kikyo-chan and Akane-chan. Maybe Mitabi-chan and Shumei-chan too. Amaterasu said. What do you mean? Her daughter asked. During the time the other gods and I were waiting to free you and Kikyo-chan, I had a vision of a prophecy, a child of prophecy. This child will be of your blood and another shinobi, and both he is destined to change the shinobi world for the better. This man will claim to love you and then betray you, but before doing so he will give you 2 children, a boy the child of the prophecy and a daughter. The daughter you will raise separately to protect her, and the boy will stay in the village of his birth where you will leave instructions for him to be treated like a hero by the village. That request will be ignored and he will be treated like a pariah and beaten severely behind the back of the Hokage for being the container of Akane-chan, until during a particularly savage beating he will activate his bloodline and taken to his home where he will meet his grandmother and grand-uncle from his father's side of the family and taken from the village to train. However, between the time of his birth and the day he leaves the village he will be gifted with many blessings to help on his journey. He will possess many bloodlines as well as many zanpaku too. He will also be arranged to marry the Nibi, Nanabi, Kyubi, Jubi, and my granddaughter Yoruichi Shihoin, as well as 2 very beautiful Kages and many others. However, before that day comes, I will send you to the human world to pose as an orphaned human girl. I will reverse your aging and seal your memories until the day your children are born. You will still be a goddess, but you will know nothing of your own heritage until the day of the Kyubi's attack and your children's birth. Then on that day your memories of your true self will be unsealed. 2587 years later, 13 before current timeline. Hokage-sama, the Kyubi is attacking, we need to seal it. Random shinobi said. I know, but we have to wait for Minato. Hiruzen, what's the situation? Minato asked. The Kyubi is attacking and we need to seal it. Okay, I'll seal it inside my son, he is the only one available as Kushina has yet to give birth to my daughter. Okay, Minato, but hurry. Little did Minato know that Hiruzen and Jiraiya had known about the prophecy as the toads had told them, and neither they nor the toads ever told Minato as he had developed behavioral oddities that made them not trust him with that information. Minato stood before the gates of Konoha, went through some hand signs and said, summoning jutsu. Before him stood Gamabunta in all his glory. Minato, what do you want, brat? Bunta said. I need your help with sealing Kyubi. You want me to fight that thing? Are you crazy? Gamabunta-sama, I only need you to keep it busy while I prepare the sealing. Alright brat, but make it quick. Bunta yelled. Minato disappeared in a yellow flash and moments later appeared with Kushina next to him and began the process of summoning the Shinigami. Summoning jutsu. Moments later a blue ethereal being appeared on the battlefield. What do you want, human? He asked. Shinigami-sama, wish for you help me seal the Kyubi in exchange for the soul of my wife and unborn daughter. He exclaimed. Ha, 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 Minato, you fool, do honestly think my own aunt would willingly let you sacrifice me to seal the Kyubi? You're ever dumber than you look. Kushina said as she walked over to the Kyubi and gave her a scroll for her to look at later. What do you mean your aunt? Minato, you foolish mortal, my real name isn't Kushina Uzumaki. My real name is Kagaya Otsutsuki and I am a goddess and the adopted daughter of Amaterasu, the one called Kami. The Shinigami's true name is Yami, goddess of darkness and the underworld, and you have just committed a grave sin against her. Mortal, for your crime against the gods I lay claim to your soul and send you to hell. Yami said as Minato's soul was consumed, leaving an empty soulless body behind. Shinigami removed the genjutsu cast upon the Kyubi and sealed her within little Naruto, placed a barrier around the little boy and took Kagaya to the realm of the gods. Moments later a root agent showed to try and kidnap the little boy for his master but was struck down the moment he touched the barrier. A minute later the Sandaime and Jiraiya showed up and took custody of the little boy. Sensei, I don't like this. I know Jiraiya-kun, but in this instance we don't have a choice. Here, take this scroll. It contains all of Minato's techniques and all agreements that he had with civilians, Danzo and Homura that I want out of the village. What agreements and what about Tsunade? Jiraiya asked. Minato had several agreements with Kakashi and the people I mentioned that upon his death he would leave them everything and leave his children. With nothing little did he know that because of him taking the Namikaze name he was considered a commoner, and when he married Kagaya he married into royalty and the Otsutsuki absorbed all Namikaze assets, making him the Otsutsuki clan head in title only, meaning he had no right to give anyone anything with Kagaya's approval, so in essence he not only broke clan law but committed treason against the village and the Fire Country. Furthermore, as far as Tsunade is concerned, she is his fiancée, but I have no doubt that a root agent has recently been dispatched and informed her that Kagaya and Naruto are dead, so she won't return to the village. For now, Jiraiya-kun, I want you to maintain your spy network and I'll look after Naruto-kun. Tsunade will be told the truth when the time is right and not before. Now before Danzo or the civilians show up you need to leave, he said as Jiraiya nodded his head and shunshined away. Naruto-kun, I know the village will not honor your mother's wishes and the clans and myself will protect you as best we can, but your life will have a lot of hardships. I only hope you can show the mental fortitude to handle them all. Hiruzen thought, looking at the sleeping baby in his arms. To be continued. Chapter 2, A Beating to Remember. Streets of Konoha. It has been 8 years since the Kyuubi was sealed inside an infant. Said infant's name is Naruto Uzumaki. We find young Naruto running down the street being chased by a mob of civilians and shinobi that hated him. Come back here, demon. Yeah, come back here so we can finish what the fourth started and send you to hell where you belong. The group of civilians and shinobi shouted as they cornered the little boy in an alley. Please stop, I didn't do anything to you. Why do you want to hurt me? An extremely frightened Naruto asked. Didn't do anything. You're a murderer. You killed our families and friends and we are going to send you hell, you little monster. A shinobi with gravity-defying gray hair wearing an Inu mask shouted as lightning coated his hand. Guess who? I didn't do anything. I don't know anything. The little boy exclaimed. That's right, demon. You don't know anything and you never will. The Inu masked shinobi shouted as he shoved his lightning-coated hand into the little boy's chest. Little did he know that a certain nine-tailed Biju was already healing her host as the mob left high-fiving each other for finally killing the demon. At least that is what they hoped. If they had bothered to stick around, they would have seen his body begin to glow as his bloodline activated. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto found himself in a dark place with water that was ankle-deep and he immediately thought he was dead. His ears perked up because he heard someone crying, so he followed the sound till he found its source. Hello. Are you okay? He asked as he heard her crying but couldn't see her. Naruto-kun, I am so sorry for what I did to you. She said, what do you mean what you did to me? He asked. She came into the light in her human form. She was beautiful with 9 red fox tails, piercing red slitted eyes and long red hair. She was 5 feet 8 inches tall, long slender legs that went on forever and stood there stark naked. Naruto immediately blushed at what he was seeing. He liked it and she knew it as she was also blushing a new shade of red. Can you put some clothes on? Naruto asked as he turned around to let her do so. Is this better, Naruto-kun? She asked. He nodded and asked, who are you? My name is Akane and I am the 9-tailed fox and the reason for your life up to this point. Kyuubi. Naruto exclaimed in fear. I thought the Yondaime killed you. No, Naruto-kun, the Yondaime didn't kill me as you can't kill a being of pure energy. Naruto-kun, do you know anything about your family? She replied. No, every time I ask Jiji or Kaharu Ba-chan they tell me they don't know. I know they're hiding something from me, I just don't know what. He replied. Indeed, they are. However, things concerning my attack on the village 8 years ago have been hidden from you and the general populace. She said, but why would they hide things from me and everyone else? He asked. Over the next few hours she told him everything from the attack 8 years ago to her being one of his future brides and what his bastard father tried to do to both him and his mother. And like she predicted, he was more than a little pissed, but the anger wasn't directed at her, his mother or his Jiji and Ba-chan, but solely at his father and his co-conspirators. He reached up to remove the seal tag on the front of the gate when someone grabbed his hand and pulled him away. Who are you? Naruto exclaimed. Naruto, my name is Minato Namikaze and I am your father. Everything the Kyuubi told you is a lie, the filthy beast must remain in its cage. Minato said with a malicious grin on his face which Naruto caught. Naruto promptly walked up to his father and kicked him square in the nuts, and when he hunched over he got a kick to the face. Minato may have just been a soul shard, but he was in his son's mindscape, so anything Naruto did to him still hurt like hell, as Naruto was the king of that world. Q-chan didn't lie to me. I would know if she did. You on the other hand are trying to confuse and take advantage of me, and I want you gone. Naruto said. You ignorant little demon, I made this seal, I control this seal, and I'm not going anywhere. Minato said as he stalked towards little Naruto. Akane didn't like it and tried everything she could to force that cage open so she could protect her future husband, but it wouldn't move an inch. When all hope seemed lost, there was a bright flash of light, and standing there in all her glory was the Shinigami. Minato immediately feared what was to come. Q-chan, it has been a while. Minato Namikaze, you have stuck your nose in the affairs of others for far too long, and it stops right now. She said, waving her hand, sending the final piece of Minato's soul to hell. Naruto-kun, your mother cannot wait to see you, and when you wake up and leave this village you will meet her and your godfather. I am sorry for what the village has done to you, my cute little maelstrom. She said, giving him a hug which he gladly returned. We will meet again, Naruto-kun. After that she disappeared. Q-chan, time to get you out of here, he said, ripping off the seal. Naru-kun, when you wake up, we will talk further. We have much to discuss, Akane said as she disappeared. Outside, the Hokage arrived and saw the carnage around him, and his eyes immediately looked to the center of the destruction as a bright light lit up the alley. Naruto, what have they done to you, my boy? You have done nothing to deserve this, he said as 4 more flashes lit up the alley. Who are you? He asked, demanded. We are people concerned for the safety of little Naru-kun, considering what just happened to him, and we have much to discuss, but not here, someplace more private. One of the cloaked figures said. Fine, we will go to my office and talk there, Hiruzen said as his Anbu and the cloaked figures disappeared. Now who are you and what is your interest in Naruto-kun? He demanded. Very well, we have come for the purpose of taking him away to get trained. I am Midoriko Uchiha, Minato's mother and Naruto's grandmother. This gentleman next to me is Madara Uchiha, my brother and his grand-uncle. This beautiful woman to my right is the Jubi no Okami, also known as Kikyo Otsutsuki, the 10-tailed wolf and one of Naruto's fiancés, and finally the beautiful red-haired young lady to her right is Akane Otsutsuki, also known as the 9-tailed fox, also one of his fiancés. Midoriko said. Hiruzen and his Anbu had their jaws on the, and not more than a minute after introductions were made, Midoriko threw a kunai into the far left bookcase, and everyone watched as a blank masked Anbu fell out as everyone looked at her with amazement. What? I did say that we had to talk in private, didn't I? Having one of Danzo's roots spying on us is anything but private, she said as Naruto began to stir. If I may, would it be alright if I sent for others that care for Naruto? Hiruzen asked the female Uchiha, getting a nod. Neko, would you get me Elder Kaharu, Kurenai, Anko, Hana Inuzuka and the clan heads and remove your mask when you return? He said. Yes, Hokage-sama, she replied. A few minutes later she returned with the mentioned individuals and removed her mask. What's the deal, old man? I was just about ready to go to sleep. Anko, before looking over to the corner and seeing Naruto lying there with a fresh circular scar on his chest. Old man, what happened to him? She questioned, making her way over to her favorite little prankster with tears in her eyes as she ran a hand through his platinum bond-streaked blood-red hair. Judging from that circular scar, I think you know what happened to Anko-chan. He replied, seeing the look of righteous fury in her eyes. Kakashi, that bastard. When I get my hands on that ignorant fucker, he'll be lucky if I leave him alive, let alone able to have kids. She screamed as all the men in the room flinched. Calm down, Anko, we'll deal with him later, or let Naruto-kun later on when he's strong enough. Right now, though, we have other matters to attend to. Hiruzen replied. Like what, Hokage-sama? Hiyashi replied. These people wish to take Naruto-kun out of the village for training. He then explained who they were. So, you're the ladies his mother told us about. Madara said. Is Kagaya-chan okay? Kurenai asked. Yes, she is. She was severely weakened after giving birth to Naruto and his sister and had to spend all these years in the realm of the gods, but she is fine. However, she is extremely pissed at what this village has done to her son and has said that the ones responsible will pay dearly for it even if it means turning all of Konoha into a smoldering crater. He replied as Naruto woke up. Gigi, what's going on, and why am I not dead? He asked. Naruto-kun, good to see you up my boy. How do you feel? Hiruzen asked. I'm fine, angry but fine. He replied. Hiruzen flinched at that statement, hoping his surrogate grandson wasn't angry with him for lying to him all these years, as a happy shout rang throughout the room. Akane-chan. Kaharu-ba-chan. Naruto shouted as gave them both hugs. Naruto-kun, are you okay? Kaharu asked. No, I'm not. Stupid villagers were being mean to me again. He shouted. Just because Kyuubi was sealed inside me doesn't mean they should hurt me. He said with tears in his eyes. I know, kiddo. But you're here and you're okay, and that is all that matters. She said as she hugged him tight. Everyone who saw this was smiling and started tearing up as they watched the touching scene before them. Gigi, who are these other people and why are they looking at me like they know me? He asked. His Gigi went into the long story about who the newcomers were and how he had standing marriage contracts with the other young ladies when he came of age courtesy of his mother. Naruto also found out about his mother, what happened to her and why she wasn't there, and surprisingly he wasn't mad. He was also told of his father's treachery against him and his mother and immediately hugged his grandmother. Midoriko-ba-chan, I'm sorry dad hurt you, and Ka-chan. He said. It's okay Naru-chan, he got what was coming to him. She said, your mother can't wait to meet you, neither can your sisters. His eyes went at that statement. My Ka-san, and my sisters. Yes, here's a picture. She said, pulling him into her lap as she showed him a picture. See, this pretty lady here with the white hair is your mom Kagaya, the other young woman with long black hair is your stepsister Naruko, and the little girl with long red in a ponytail is your little sister Natsumi. She said, who are these people? He asked. Well, let's see. The tall and short young ladies with black hair are your aunts Karen and Kukuku Shiba, and the one with auburn hair is your aunt Yuzu, the man next to her is your uncle Ishin. The woman next to him is his wife and your aunt Masaki, the woman next to her with black hair is your cousin Soifin, and finally the woman next to her with long purple hair is Yoruichi Shihoin, one of your fiancés. She replied. She's pretty. He replied with a noticeable blush. Indeed, she is. She replied with a chuckle. Madara, who had left the room with an ANBU to get Naruto's things, had just returned. Naruto-kun, are you ready to go? We have a lot of training to do and you have family to meet. He said. Madara, how long will you be gone? Hiruzen asked. We will be gone for 6 years so he can take the academy graduation exam when he returns. However, before we leave, we are first making a quick stop at Otsutsuki Manor. Any of you who wish are welcome to join us. He replied. Hokage-sama, I have a gift for you and Kaharu if you'll allow me. Akane said, getting a nod in response. Because the two of you cared for Naru-kun as much as you did, I wish to reverse your aging back to your prime. She said, touching their shoulders as a red glow lit up the room. When she was finished, Kaharu and Hokage looked to be in their early 30s. After show and tell was over, everyone except Kaharu and the Hokage said their goodbyes and went back home, while the remaining two followed Naruto and his family to Otsutsuki Manor. Once there, everyone was led to the weapons vault where they saw katana lining the walls. Kaharu, Hiruzen, as a reward for your dedication and caring towards my nephew, you each are permitted one blade from this room. However, do not try to force a connection. These swords are sentient and they will make the choice based on your own abilities. In fact, some of these blades can even bestow upon their chosen master a Kekkei Genkei if the right elemental affinities are present, so just walk throughout the room and if you hear a name being said, speak it aloud so a connection can be made. Madara said as they began to walk around the room. It wasn't long before Kaharu had her chosen blade as said blade approached her, the handle crackling with lightning. Blow my enemies away, Urashi no Ojo, Storm Princess, she intoned as she collapsed as her lightning and water affinities enveloped her bodies. Next it was Hiruzen's to choose his blade. He had extremely high affinities with fire and earth, so any blade he received would probably be an earth blade, fire blade, or a combination of the two. Like Kaharu, a blade lit up a bright reddish-orange color and presented itself to him. Smother all of creation in molten rock, Kazan no Kami, volcano god, he intoned, and shortly after he collapsed just as Kaharu did. Madara Oji-chan, are Gigi and Kaharu-ba-chan okay? Naruto asked, giving his uncle a pleading look. With a smile and a ruffle of his nephew's hair he said, "Yes Naruto-kun, they are just fine. The act of being chosen by their blades has given them both a keke genkai, and while their bodies get used to the changes, they are unconscious to prevent them from feeling any discomfort due to said changes, but they should wake up any minute." "Will that happen to me?" Naruto asked. "No kiddo, it won't. It isn't needed as the keke genkai you activated earlier this evening gives you access to those bloodlines and several more like it." Madara replied. "While we wait for them to awaken, why don't you go and pick your own?" Naruto nodded and ran off. A few moments later Naruto returned with 7 blades cradled in his arms. "That was fast," his uncle said. "Was I supposed to be slower? Did I do something wrong?" Naruto said. "No Naru-kun. Your uncle just means that no one has ever done that as fast as you." Akane said. "Which blades chose you?" "Let's see, the big black one is Zanjetsu ni, the Daisho pair is Kaden Kyokutsu-chan, the short sword with the tassel at the end is Benihime-chan, the red one is Senbon Yum-chan, the Wakizashi is Ryakatse-chan, the ice blue blade is Kori no Ryu or Kori-chan, and the last one is Ten Hai no Tori, Heavenly Fire Bird, or Tori-chan," he said with a grin on his face. "You don't do anything half-assed, do you, Naruto-kun?" Madara asked with a smile. "I guess not," the boy replied with a foxy grin. About that time Hiruzen and Kaharu woke up. "Gigi. Kaharu ba-chan, are you okay?" he asked. "We are just fine Naruto-kun. We just had a lot of training to do and our new swords had a lot of information to pass on to us just as yours will for you," Kaharu said as they all left Otsutsuki Manor and headed back to the Hokage's office with Hiruzen and Kaharu under a henge. "Madara, when I see you all in 6 years, I expect Naruto-kun to be a fine young shinobi, and Naruto do everything they tell you and come back to us a strong young man," he said. "Okay, Gigi." Naruto gave him a hug and disappeared with his family. "Hokage-sama, I have marriage contracts for Yugao Azuki, the Yamanaka clan, Suman Hana Inosuka, Kurenai, Enko and the Hyuga clan that I wish to file with this office at their request between themselves and Naruto's clan the Otsutsuki. These contracts have been signed by the parties involved and Naruto's mother Kagaya Otsutsuki and witnessed by myself," Kaharu said. "Very well, they have been so entered and until further notice they will be kept under lock and key." "Hi, Hokage-sama," she replied. To be continued. Chapter 3. Okay everyone, this is my very first Naruto FIC, so please be kind. This will have crossover elements of Bleach and a few others, but I will keep which others under wraps for now. As for the story itself, it will be a harem and the main pairings from the beginning will be Naruto x Yoruichi, Kikyo Fem Jubi OC, Akane Fem Kyuubi, Anko, Kurenai, Yugao, Shizune, Ino, Hinata H, Satomi H. OC and Hinata's twin, Tsunade, Suman Hana Inuzuka, Haku and Yakumo Kurama, Matabi, Nibi, Yugito, Samui, Shumei, Fu. New additions after the Chunin exams. Mikoto Yu, Satsuki Yu, Sasuke's half-sister, Shizuka, Konan, Shion, Mei Terumi, Temari and Kurosaki. Mabui x Darui, Karui x Choji, Saya x Shikamaru, Gara x Fem Shukaku, Zabuza x Sayuri Yuki, Haku's mom OC. There will be Extreme Sasuke, Kakashi, Sakura, Homura, Danzo, Civilian and Hyuga Elder Council bashing save for Sakura's mother Mebuki Haruno and Sakura's older sister Rose Haruno. Summary. 8 years after the Kyuubi is sealed within him, first-time academy student Naruto, Uzumaki, is the victim of a savage beating at the hands of the civilians and ninja that hate him. During this beating he activates long-thought-dead Keke Tota and Keke Mora. As a result of this, the Hokage feels it is necessary to get him out of Konoha for the next few years, but not before Naruto finds out the truth of his heritage, meets a few members of his family and finds out a few other things as well that no one ever knew about. Disclaimer. I own nothing except idea. Any copyrighted material contained therein is the sole property of the original creators, including but not limited to song lyrics, technique names, terminologies, sword names and character names except those that I created. Before we begin reviews. Jägermeister 31. Yes, Naruto is Ichigo's reincarnation. Care to take a guess on who Orihime, Tatsuki's and Matsumoto's reincarnation are? Virtual cookie if you guess it right. Getik 91. Thanks, I'm glad you like the story. I'm sorry my writing seems tangled to you, most of my stuff does come out that way, it isn't meant to confuse. Shuru Emiya 1. Removing Yugito was an honest slip as I was extremely tired when I finished and posted chapter 2, she is now back in. Sorry. Gamijiro. Okay, Yakumo is back in. However, with regards power levels, keep in mind that due to the fact that Kagaya Otsutsuki Kushina Uzumaki is Naruto's mom, and because of the fact he has 7 Zanpakuto after the 6-year time skip, and because he is half demon, half god, his power level will be almost equal to his mother, and when he turns 18 his aging will stop. His mother is a demon goddess and daughter to Amaterasu, and considering he is a Jubi no Kitsune it isn't too surprising, so in nutshell when he returns from training his powers will be godlike, except they will be mostly sealed as I intend to bring the Gentei Kaijo from Bleach into the storyline. If you're wondering who has what Zanpakuto, I'll leave that as a surprise. To my guest. Okay, Temari is back with Naruto, but I had to give Shikamaru a hot chick. I mean, come on, he may be a lazy bastard but I still like the guy, so I subbed Temari for Saya and now she is Shikamaru's girl. From here on out the harem is set, no further changes. Now without further delay, on with the show. Chapter 3. A Hero's Return and a Pissed Off Slug. Part 1. Edited for Grammar and Spelling on August 3, 2025. Naruto and his family had just left Konoha when his uncle and grandmother sat him down and told him everything about what his father and Minato's father had done to their family. Flashback no Jutsu. Naruto-kun, I know you are wondering why your father isn't held in very high regard with your grandmother and your Gigi back home. It is because Minato and his father did some very bad things. Madara said. Like what? Naruto asked. Naru-chan, Minato's father, your grandfather was a deceiver and a liar. When he saw that I was an Uchiha he used a Fuinjutsu to cast a powerful genjutsu on me called Jigoku no Yona Sakai non, or Nirvana of a hellish worldscape. He did this to restart the Namikaze clan with Uchiha genes to be the ultimate clan of Fuinjutsu users. However, what he didn't realize is that the Uzumaki and Otsutsuki would always outclass him in the areas of Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu. When your uncle came to check on me, he saw that I was happy, so he left me alone, but, in my head, I was screaming for him to come back and release me from this hell. Midoriko said, stopping as Madara took over. Naruto-kun, I left at first thinking everything was alright, but soon after came back as my instincts were screaming at me to return. When I did return, she had just given birth to a boy. I saw a seal on the back of her neck and immediately I knew what it was. Soon after, I killed almost every member of the Namikaze clan while they slept and removed the seal on your grandmother's neck and awoke her from the genjutsu. I was immediately wrapped in a hug as she was overjoyed to see me and she refused to let go. It was sometime later that all her memories returned and we learned what that bastard Namikaze did to her. Madara said. Kato, that bastard. Not only did he cast that genjutsu on me, but I was forced to watch from inside my own mind as he raped me and forced me to carry his spawn. When your granduncle arrived, he used his Fuinjutsu knowledge, which was on par with Akashi Uzumaki, his mentor in Fuinjutsu and head of Uzumaki clan at that time, to permanently seal any chance of Minato unlocking the Sharingan. I didn't want that bastard Kato to get the satisfaction of thinking he accomplished his goal. And so, after carrying Minato into the house and putting him into his crib, my brother and I left a note for Kato's parents detailing everything that happened and left the little bastard for them to raise. It was years later that I learned that Minato had married your mother, and needless to say I wasn't surprised what he tried to do when sealing Akane-chan. She said, what did he try to do? Naruto asked. The little bastard tried to use your mother and your unborn little sister as sacrifices to the Shinigami for sealing Akane-chan into you. That didn't go over too well with the Shinigami, who is by the way your grand-aunt on your mother's side, and the goddess Amaterasu is your grandmother, speaking of whom. She said as a bright flash lit up the clearing. Before them stood Kagaya, Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Inari and Jiraiya. Ka-chan. Naruto shouted as he ran to hug his mother. Sochi. I missed you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you growing up, but giving birth to you and your sister and dealing with your idiot father's machinations was extremely tiring. But enough of that, I have some people I want you to meet. She said, this is my mother Amaterasu, goddess of the sun and universe, or Kami as humans call her. She is your grandmother. To her right is the goddess of the moon, my aunt, and your grandaunt Tsukuyomi, To her right is my uncle and your granduncle Susanoo, god of storms. To his right is our cousin, god of foxes, fertility and learning, Inari, and to his right is your godfather Jiraiya the toad sage. As she finished the introductions, the rest of his family all gave him hugs which he joyfully returned and gifts. The gods each gave him their blessing and Jiraiya gave him a scroll. Jiraiya Jii-chan, what is this? He asked. That kiddo is a scroll-filled jutsu scrolls and you idiot father's signature techniques, all of which I will teach you and your sister, also the toad summoning contract for both of you to sign if you want. He replied with a warm smile only to receive a hug in return from his godson. Thank you, thank you, thank you, was Naruto's excited reply. You're welcome kiddo, now let's get to Uzu so you can meet your sisters, your fiancé Yoruichi, and start your training. He said as they all conversed and talked about his training and what expected of him both during and after. As they walked into Uzu a week later, they were in awe at what they were seeing. 3/4 of Uzu was still in ruins, but the remaining fourth was a huge compound with training grounds and a massive jutsu vault. All in all, the whole thing was so big that the Uchiha and Hyuga compounds could fit inside comfortably. Oni-chan. A gleeful shout was heard as they walked into the compound as Naruto was soon tackled to the ground. The little girl soon looked up with a big grin on her face as Naruto soon realized who she was. Natsumi-chan, he asked, unsure. Hi, Oni-chan, she replied as Naruto hugged her for dear life. Once the two were acquainted, Yoruichi introduced herself and hugged her fiancé, which was happily returned. Soon after, Naruto introduced herself as well as the other members of his extended family from the picture he was shown, and then they got to work discussing his and his sister's training. Naruto-kun, you and Natsumi's training will look something like this. Madara said, holding up a chart. Year 1. Physical conditioning. Chakra control. Year 2. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights starting at 20 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 1. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D ranks. Fuinjutsu. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu, basically the same thing I know, but in this instance two different styles, one passive and one aggressive. Kido. Taijutsu. Hakuda. Ho-ho. Zanpakuto Communication 101. Year 3. Start using shadow clones while training, no more than 500 clones. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 40 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 2. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D and C ranks. Fuinjutsu Intermediate. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Intermediate. Kido Intermediate. Taijutsu Intermediate. Hakuda Intermediate. Ho-ho Intermediate. Zanpakuto Training for Beginners Original +6 clones. Year 4. Training using shadow clones increased from 500 to 1500. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 80 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 4. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D, C and B ranks. Fuinjutsu Intermediate. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Intermediate. Kido Intermediate. Taijutsu Intermediate. Hakuda Intermediate. Ho-ho Intermediate. Zanpakuto Training Intermediate Original +6 clones. Year 5. Training using shadow clones increased from 1500 to 5000. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 160 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 5. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu E, D, C, B, A and S ranks. Fuinjutsu Expert. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Expert. Kido Expert No Incantation. Taijutsu Expert. Hakuda Expert. Ho-ho Expert. Zanpakuto Training Expert Original only with all 7 blades. Year 6. Training using shadow clones increased from 5000 to 10,000. Chakra control and physical conditioning with weights 320 pounds on each limb. Gravity and resistance seals at level 7. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu Master E, D, C, B, A, S and SS ranks. Fuinjutsu Master. Kenjutsu, Zanjutsu Master. Kido Master No Incantation able to keep power output constant. Taijutsu Master. Hakuda Master. Ho-ho Master. Zanpakuto Training Master all 7 blades. Everyone heard a whistle and turned to Jiraiya. That's crazy Madara. Don't you think that is a little extreme? He said. Not really, since he already promised to come back strong. Not to mention the fact that he needs this kind of extreme training to master his Kekemora Dojutsu, the Ryugan in all its variants. Madara replied. Madara-ji-chan. What's the Ryugan? Naruto asked. Well Naruto-kun, the Ryugan is a variant of your mother's Rinne Sharingan and you activated it during your last beating at the hands of the villagers but you cannot control it. Ryugan means Dragon's Eye and it possesses the powers of not only the Rinnegan but also the Sharingan and the Byakugan as well. It even has a Mangekyo, an eternal Mangekyo form like the Sharingan and the Byakugan, and your sister Natsumi has her own variant as well, or she could get your mother's Rinne Sharingan. He said. Wow. Enough talk, let's get training, old man. Naruto shouted as he and his sister ran off to the training ground like a couple of speeding bullets from a gun, causing everyone to laugh and follow. Everyone knew the next 6 years would be more than a little interesting. 5 years later, Naruto and Natsumi's training had gone better than everyone hoped. Instead of taking the full 6 years to master what the others had to teach them, they did it in 5 and spent the rest of the final year traveling and refining everything they learned before making their way towards Hinokuni and Konoha. He and his sister not only mastered their bloodline, which in Natsumi's case was the Rinne Sharingan, but they almost mastered their Zanpakuto too as well. In Naruto's case most of them, he had mastered Zangetsu, Senbon Yume, Kaden Kyokutsu, Benihime and Kori no Ryu. Ryukatse and Tenhai no Tori had told him that due to the fact that they were the most powerful multi-elemental and fire elemental blades in existence, mastering them would take longer, at least another year and a half, but it largely depended on him. But they were honestly unsure due to the fact that his powers had not yet matured to the point where they could gauge them properly, which he was fine with, saying he wasn't in any hurry, that he was strong enough for now. He had figured out some tag team techniques with his sister using his wind element technique combined with Natsumi's Tobiyame to make them all more powerful, which they were both giddy over. During their training, Naruto and Natsumi were given many contracts to sign: the Toads by Jiraiya, the Fox contract by Akane, the Tiger contract by their mother, the Wolf contract by Kikyo, and finally the Dragon contract by Susanoo. To say that they were ecstatic would be an understatement. They were elated to know that 4 of the 5 contracts they signed were 4 of the 5 legendary contracts that only the most worthy were allowed to sign, with the only one missing being the Phoenix contract, which they vowed to find and sign. Now normally one person, let alone 2, wouldn't be allowed to sign so many contracts due to contractual conflicts, because only one contract can be signed by one person at a time. But because of their bloodline and being the offspring of Kagaya Otsutsuki and the grandchildren of Amaterasu and the niece and nephew of so many others, the summons already saw them as worthy summoners. As such, each of the boss summons gave them each a tattoo that could be used instead of using hand signs. Flashback no Jutsu. Natsumi, Naruto, come here for a second. Jiraiya called out. Hi sensei. They replied and came running. Good, now. You two have done so well that we've decided to give you summoning contracts, but not just one, you're getting 5. From me you're getting the Toad contract. From Akane you're getting the Fox, and as Akane has already given her permission, being the boss, she is allowing you to sign the contract. From your Kikyo you're getting the Wolf contract for the same reasons as Akane. From your mother you're getting the Tiger contract, and from your uncle Susanoo you're getting the Dragon contract. The first contracts they signed were the Fox and the Wolf to get them out of the way when a large cloud of smoke appeared. Who dares sign our contracts with another contract signed? 2 voices bellowed. We do. I am Naruto Otsutsuki and this is my sister Natsumi. Naruto replied. Otsutsuki as in Kagaya Otsutsuki? The Wolf asked. The very same. Natsumi replied. They looked up and saw their bosses standing there. Akane-sama. Kikyo-sama. What are you doing here? We have been looking for you for years. They shouted. Well, I was sealed in the moon for about 20 years with Kagaya-chan and then released by the gods, and then spent the rest of that time with them in their realm after being given the title and rank of Wolf Demon Goddess. So now I am passing down the title of boss of the Wolf Summons clan to you, Chiharu, as I can't be a summons and a goddess at the same time, so I will be living with my future husband from now on. Kikyo said as the young 9-tailed wolf grew her 10th tail, smiling happily at her former leader. The same could be said of me, Azami, as I was given an immortal flesh and blood body so I could have a fresh start with my future husband, and when Naru-kun decides to stop being a shinobi, he and his sister have a standing invitation to become gods if they choose. That being said, I am giving you your 9th tail and passing on my title and seat as the boss of the Fox Summons clan to you. Congratulations, Zami-chan. Akane said as a bright light lit up the area as Azami grew her 9th tail, but something else happened that no one was expecting. As Akane gave Azami her 9th tail, the god of foxes decided to give Akane her 10th tail. This had never happened before as there had never been more than 2 Jubi let alone 3. Akane was the 10-tailed vixen in Naruto due to being Kagaya's son and Akane's Jinchuriki until recently and who also had demonic and divine blood since birth like his sister was the Jubi no Yoko, but that was something both he and Akane were going to keep under wraps until the right time or until they got back to Konoha and use it to really fuck with people for shits and giggles, whichever came first. Azami and Chiharu looked at one another, nodded their heads and then looked at Naruto and his sister. Naruto-kun, Natsumi-chan, we have been without a decent summoner for so long, so we will allow this, but do not dishonor us with the same arrogance as that bastard Izuna Uchiha. He tried to control us into attacking innocent people, and when that happened we severed all forms of contact with the human world. Do not disappoint us young ones, understand? Chiharu said in her wolf form, towering over him and Natsumi as she grinned, showing all her sharp bright white teeth. Kozo, kid, boy or brat, understand this: if you or your sister attempt what he did, you so much as think about doing it and we find out we don't care whose husband or sister-in-law you are, not only will we sever ties with you but we will kill you, chop you into little pieces and take you back to 5-Den Mountain and feed you to our children, understand? Azami said, doing the same as Chiharu. Yes, we understand. However, the two of you should understand that after the kind of life I've had I don't take kindly to threats. He said as his spiritual pressure flared to life, weighing down on them. That being said, if you so much as touch anyone I care about for any reason, I suggest you tunnel yourself into another dimension to hide, because nothing short of that will keep you safe from me. He said, with Natsumi nodding her head in agreement. All right kids, you pass. Chiharu said. What? Naruto and Natsumi said, confused. You passed. You see Naruto-kun, after our problems with Izuna we didn't completely cut ourselves off from the human world, but we did hide our contract somewhere only the bosses or the gods could find. And after that we came up with a plan to test the next summoner to see if he was worthy, and judging from the look in your eyes when you threatened us we saw that you cared more for your precious people than yourself, therefore we find you worthy of being our summoner. Summon us if you need help. Good luck Naruto-kun. Azami said before she and Chiharu went back to 5-Den Mountain. After that he and Natsumi signed the remaining 3 contracts and were given various tests they had to pass to be accepted as summoners. For the toads it was a test of resolve. For the tigers it was a test of courage. Finally, for the dragons it was a test of intellect. All of which he and his sister passed with flying colors. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Now we find our heroes and their loved ones on a road headed towards Takigakure, as they had to pass through waterfall country to get to Hai no Kuni in Konoha. About 10 miles outside of the village they saw an explosion and heard a woman scream. Naruto and Natsumi run towards the sound and are stopped by 2 Taki Anbu. Halt! Leave this area at once. The business of our village does not concern outsiders. A Taki Anbu said. You are beating a young girl, so we are making it our business. Naruto and Natsumi said, drawing their blades. You have 5 seconds to stop what you are doing and back away from the girl or I will kill you. Natsumi said. TCH, get out of here you fucking demon lovers. The Anbu shouted as he drew a kunai and rushed the 2 demonic twins. You got that wrong, we aren't demon lovers, we are demons, you ignorant fool. Naruto said as he and Natsumi revealed their demonic features. Naruto showed that he had blood-red ears and 10 fox tails with platinum blonde tips. His sister Natsumi had platinum blonde wolf ears and 8 tails with purple tips. Well, look here boys, more demons for us to kill. Hold still freak, I will try and put you out of your misery as slowly and painfully as possible, then the boys and I will have some fun with your women once we are done breaking them, they will be our personal fuck toys. The Anbu said. Now anyone that knew Naruto knew that was something that you just didn't say in front of him. Oh no, here we go, you really shouldn't have said that. Yoruichi said. Why not babe? You are gonna be my woman after we kill these 3 demons. A random Taki nin replied. I doubt that. For one thing I can tell by your posture and how you carry yourself that you like your friends or a pussy that has never had a real woman before, so I know for a fact that you could never satisfy me. Naruto-kun has many times and it felt so good. Yoruichi replied with a lustful grin as she hugged Naruto from behind. Naruto stepped forward, unsheathed his blade and said, Okiro, Benihime. You idiots will not live past today. He said and vanished only to appear a few seconds later sheathing his blade with a click as 3 of the Taki nin all fell to pieces. Snap, Tobiame. Natsumi said, releasing her blade and launching a fireball at the 3 remaining Taki nin. Futon, Daitapa, she said as the wind combined with Tobiame's attack caused an explosion that turned her enemies to ash. They then walked over to the young woman that was being abused. "Excuse me miss, are you okay?" he asked. She instantly backed up screaming, "No stop. I've done nothing wrong, don't hurt me anymore. Hey relax. I won't hurt you. Come on, let's get you looked at and get you home." He said holding out his hand as she timidly took hold of it and him in a strong embrace shaking the entire time. He took her to his mother so she could be healed. "Ka-chan, can you help this young woman? She is a ninja and her comrades were beating her for fun." "Of course, Sochi. Now come here dear and lay down," Kagaya said as she began to heal her. "Tell me, young one, what is your name?" "My name is Fu," she said. "Well Fu-chan, as soon as we get you healed, we will get you home okay?" She said. "No, don't send me back to Taki anywhere but there," she said with fearful tear-soaked eyes. "Tell me Fu-chan, did they hurt you in Taki?" she asked. "They did more than just hurt me," she said looking down at her crotch. "Fu-chan, did they rape you?" Midoriko asked as Fu nodded and began to cry. "Our village leader, a man named Shibuki, told the villagers they could do whatever they wanted to me. The bastard even took his own turn, but thanks to Shumei-chan the damage was reversed, my hymen restored and the pregnancy was aborted before the fetus even had a heartbeat." Fu said. "Excuse me Fu-chan, I'll be right back," Midoriko said. A few moments later Midoriko found herself standing in the middle of Taki. "Can I help you stranger?" Shibuki said. "Yes, you can die for me. Collaboration Kaden, Mijin Bunri, particle separator," she said, jumping into the air and launching a ball the size of a softball at the center of Taki before using flash step to outrun the blast. The moment the ball hit Shibuki it exploded with enough force to leave nothing but an empty crater in its wake wiping Taki off the map. What she didn't know was that deep underground is where the real hidden village was and what was on the surface was just for show and everyone she killed were nothing more than blood clones so in the end she basically destroyed an empty village which would be rebuilt in the coming months. To be continued. Chapter 4, A Hero's Return and a Pissed Off Slug Part 2. Edited April 13, 2020. After Naruto and crew left Taki, they passed through Tanzaku-gai. It was then that Jiraiya glimpsed someone he hadn't seen in years. "Nay, Jiraiya-sensei, is something wrong?" Naruto and Natsumi asked. "See that woman over there? The one with the long blonde hair and wearing the green haori?" He asked only to receive a nod from his students. "Well you see that woman is Tsunade, she is one of Naruto's fiancés and she thinks he is dead thanks to Danzo Shimura sticking his nose where it doesn't belong." He replied. "What happened sensei?" Naruto asked. "Well Naruto, the day you and your sister were born 14 years ago a lot of information came to light mostly concerning your father and his machinations concerning the two of you. Anyway, once the Nine Tails was sealed Danzo sent one of his root Anbu to Tsunade and his fiancée Inkiri a beautiful woman named Mei Terumi to inform them that you were dead also he could turn you into a weapon as he felt a Jinchuriki had no right to a family or happiness. Needless to say I was pissed. He even tried the same tactic against my daughter but I kept her in the loop so she knew it was complete bullshit and about a year ago I contacted Mei and told her as well as the Kiri civil war had ended so now she knows as well but I did tell her to play it off until she comes to the Chunin exams in Konoha in 6 months so don't be surprised if she walks up to you and sticks her tongue down your throat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must also inform a certain slug princess no doubt she will be pissed." He said. No Mei will not be Mizukage. I am giving that title to Zabuza. Tsunade. Jiraiya shouted getting her and Shizun's attention. "Jiraiya, what the hell are you doing here? If the old monkey wants me back in Konoha the answer is no. That place has taken too much for me to return now," she said. "Tsunade, I'd be lying if I told you he didn't want you back in the village but that isn't why I'm here. I am here today to speak with you and Shizun privately, it is important," he said in a tone that gave no room for argument as Tsunade showed him to her hotel room with Shizun and Tonton following close behind. As they entered Tsunade's hotel room they all sat down around the table. "All right, now talk," Tsunade demanded. "Very well, but first I need the two of you to understand that sensei and I kept many secrets from you not because we didn't trust you it was everyone else we didn't trust," he said handing her a scroll. As she and Shizune began to read, her eyes went wide. Are you serious, Jiraiya? Minato tried to use his own children as a sacrifice to the Shinigami, but why his children, especially our Naru-kun, were already dead, so what would the Shinigami want with dead children? Unless, she stopped as she and Shizune looked at Jiraiya. The answer they both had hoped for could be seen in his eyes. That's right, Tsunade. Naruto, Natsumi and Kagaya are all very much alive. However, before the two of you blow a fuse, neither Sensei nor myself sent those Anbu to tell you they died. That was Danzo and Homura's doing, and the only reasons we didn't tell you until now were because we were protecting you from them, and every time we found you, you both went off the grid less than 12 hours later. Do you have any idea how irritating it is trying to find someone that doesn't want to be found? He said, only to receive a tear-filled hug from both ladies. So, are they here with you? They asked, overjoyed to see Kagaya, Natsumi and their mutual fiancé. Indeed, they are in a shared hotel room in the next hotel. He replied as they tried to run him over to get to him. Wait, you don't know which room? I'll take you to him. Jiraiya led them to the room and opened the door and was about to usher them in until Tsunade pushed her way past him and immediately locked eyes with Kagaya. Kagu-chan, she and Shizune said with tears in their eyes, and with speed no one knew they had. Both women embraced Kagaya in a tearful reunion. Shish, shish. It's okay, Su-chan, Shizu-chan. Kagaya said. No, it's not. If only we hadn't believed those wrinkled old prunes, we could have been there for Naru-kun and Natsumi-chan, but we weren't, and he suffered for it, and I don't know if he will ever forgive us. Tsunade said. Well, Su-chan, Shizu-chan, why don't you turn around and ask him? Kagaya said. As she and Shizune turned around, as Naruto and one of his shadow clones planted a very long loving kiss on both Tsunade and Shizune, receiving a lustful moan from each woman. Does that answer your question, Su-chan, Shizu-chan? The two of you thought I was dead thanks to Homura and Danzo. I cannot now nor ever blame you for their stupidity. Now I believe my sister is waiting for her turn at a hug. He said as his sister threw him out of the way and did the same with her clones, only brought the two into a vice-like hug, which the two older ladies gladly returned. Well, Tsunade, now that you and Shizune know the truth, will you return to Konoha or stay here wallowing in self-pity? Jiraiya asked. No, we are going home. Tsunade said. They all packed their things and made the return trip to Konoha. 5 hours later, a mile outside Konoha's west gate. Su-chan, what will you and Shizune-chan do when we get back to the village? Natsumi asked. Well, the old monkey will most likely ask me to be Hokage, and I will agree. That way I can be close to my Naru-kun and keep the vultures away from him. She replied. Su-chan, there is something you and Jiraiya don't know. Hokage Gigi and Kaharu Ba-chan had their aging reversed by Akane-chan, so now they are back in their prime, so that is unlikely, at least for now. Naruto said. Wait, so those two are 10 years younger? She asked. Try 30 years younger. Akane said. I didn't know you could do that, Akane-chan. Tsunade said. Well, there is a lot of things demons can do you didn't know of, especially me as the 10-tailed vixen and the Queen of Foxes and future Queen of Demons. She replied. Wait, so you're the Queen of Foxes and future Queen of Demons? How does that work? Shizune asked. Quite simple. Naruto is king of demons by virtue of being Kagaya's son and a 10-tailed kitsune himself, and when he marks me as his mate, I will be the queen of demons, as will Kikyo, Shizune yourself, and anyone else he is engaged to. Akane replied with a grin. Just then they reached Konoha's gate and were confronted with Izumo and Katetsu, Konoha's eternal gate guardians. Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama, you've returned. They asked excitedly. Indeed, I have. Inform the Hokage to call a council meeting at once. She ordered. Yes, ma'am. They replied, while Madara and Midoriko headed for the Otsutsuki estate. Meanwhile, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Naruto, Natsumi arrived at the Hokage's office and saw Hiruzen and Kaharu sitting and drinking tea as Hiruzen's clones were doing his paperwork. Sensei. Kaharu. Tsunade exclaimed as she gave the two of them a hug. Ah, Tsunade-chan, Shizune-chan, you've returned. Hiruzen stated. Yes, Hokage-sama, we have Naruto-kun and Jiraiya-sama to thank for that. Shizune said. That is good news. I trust you'll be staying a while then. Kaharu said. Yes, I'm home for good. Tsunade replied. That's good, because after the Chunin exams I am appointing you as my successor. I may have had my aging reversed thanks to Akane-chan, but being Hokage has taken me away from my family for far too long, and I need to get back to being a grandfather and a father. He said. That is all well and good Hiruzen, but I think you're putting the cart before the horse. Kaharu said. What do you mean? He asked. First you and I need to deal with Homura, Danzo and the civilian council. She replied. You're right, but first things first, Jiraiya, how strong is Naruto-kun? He asked. Let me put it this way, not even the 5 Kages and Hanzo the Salamander combined could defeat him at full power. As is, due to a seal given to him by Yoruichi called the Gente Kaijo, he only has access to 15% of his maximum power, but even that much used correctly could take down a high Anbu to low Kage level fighter without much effort. Jiraiya said. Unbelievable, he got that strong in 6 years. Kaharu said. Less. He got that strong in 5 and Natsumi-chan is not that far behind, give her another 6 to 12 months and she'll be his equal. We stopped their training early and decided to start the journey home. Naruto and Natsumi just used the last year to train and refine what they were taught to the max. Jiraiya said. Incredible, well, no time like the present. Naruto, Natsumi, I want you to take this note to Iruka Yumino in ERM 201, he'll understand. Hiruzen said. Okay Gigi, but one thing though. I suggest not pairing me with either Sasuke Uchiha, Negi Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Kakashi Hatake, or they will die. He said with cold eyes as a shiver went down the spines of everyone present. I understand your feelings about them, but restrain yourself, Naruto-kun, otherwise you'll make things difficult for us in the future. Wait until they do something against you, your loved ones or the village, then you can go nuts. His Gigi replied only to get a pout and disappointing nod from Naruto before he and his sister left. Naruto and Natsumi were walking down the hall of the academy when they came upon their destination. Well, Natsumi-chan, here it is, room 201, you ready? His asked. As ready as ever, Ni-chan. She replied as they opened the door to the classroom. Hello, my name is Iruka Yumino, can I help you too? The now identified teacher asked as Naruto handed him the note from the Hokage. Very well, you two, welcome. He said with a smile. Would you mind introducing yourselves? My name is Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha Senju Otsutsuki. I like my family, friends, training, creating new techniques, ramen and dango. I hate arrogant fools, most of the civilian and elder council as well as most of Konoha for ruining my childhood. My name is Natsumi Uzumaki Uchiha Senju Otsutsuki. My likes and dislikes are the same as my brother. They said. Naruto-kun. Ino, Hinata and Satomi Hyuga shouted as they launched themselves at Naruto for a group hug. Ino-chan, Hinata-chan, Satomi-chan, it'd been a while, glad to know you didn't forget me. He said. We would never forget you, Naruto-kun, we love you too much. Hinata said, snuggling into his chest. Yeah, you're our best friend and our fiancé, no way we'd ever forget about you. Ino said with Satomi nodding in agreement. Some of the male students glared at Naruto but kept their mouths shut, all except one. Hey, get away from Hinata-chan, she's mine. The boy said. And who are you to say such things? Naruto asked. I'm Kiba Inuzuka, the only alpha male in the village, and Hinata is my woman, so get away from her. He yelled. Just as Naruto was about to respond to the insult levied against Hinata, she beat him to it. Kiba, I am not your woman and I will never be your woman. You are just a filthy mutt that doesn't know his place, stay away from me. Kiba and everyone else was shocked at Hinata's outburst, as they had never heard the kind timid girl be so rude before. Just as everyone had gotten over their shock, Sasuke decided to make his presence known. If you won't give Kiba a shot with you, how about me? You're strong enough to help me rebuild my clan. He said with an arrogant smirk. Sasuke, if Hinata wouldn't give Kiba a shot, it's doubtful she would give an arrogant little snot like you one. Her sister Satomi said. You little insect. Sasuke screamed as he began going through hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Everyone was shocked that he did that, and just before the fireball hit its target, Naruto made his move. Bakudo number 81 Danku. Naruto's smooth voice intoned. When the dust settled, all anyone saw was a clear shield between Sasuke, Hinata, Ino and Satomi. Ino-chan, Hinata-chan, Satomi-chan, are you okay? Naruto asked. We're fine, Naruto-kun, but what is that? They asked. This is one of my defensive techniques called Danku, he replied. That power, why does a no-class loser like him have it? I'm an Uchiha elite, that power should be mine so I can kill my brother. I'll demand he teach me it and all his techniques. After all, such power belongs to me and Uchiha elite, not some no-name clan-less loser. Sasuke thought. As Naruto helped Hinata up, Sasuke made his presence known. Hey Dobi, what was that jutsu you used? Sasuke demanded. Teach me now. It belongs to the Uchiha, as only an Uchiha can use a jutsu that powerful properly. He shouted as he reached for a kunai, only to be kicked away by Naruto. What happened next shocked everyone. Bakudo number 62 Hyaporenkan. He shouted as 100 bars of white light pinned him to the wall. Dobi, what the hell did you do to me? I demand you release me. Sasuke shouted. Silence, you ignorant little fool. Do you honestly believe your last name entitles you to everything you want? Ha, ha, you're just as stupid as those little fangirls. Naruto shouted. The council will hear of this, they'll make you turn over all your techniques. Sasuke said with a smirk. Oh really, please by all means tell your precious council, I'll tell them the same thing I'm fixing to tell you, fuck off. Naruto said with a grin. Alright Naruto, you've made your point, now release Sasuke. Iruka said. Yes sensei. Naruto said, snapping his fingers, releasing the technique. Sasuke dropped to the floor and glared at Naruto. This isn't over Dobi, he said. It had better be, or next time I will kill you. I don't care if you're a leaf shinobi or an Uchiha. Naruto said as he grinned and flared his power before returning to his seat. Okay everyone, now we will begin the genin exam. The first part is a written exam. Iruka said as his assistant Mizuki passed out the exam. As Mizuki got to Naruto, he gave him his exam with a sneer on his face, which Naruto caught, but he also discovered the genjutsu on the page as he took his exam. It took him all of 10 minutes to complete the exam, so he kicked back and relaxed for the next 50 minutes. Alright everyone, pencils down. Iruka said as he and Mizuki collected everyone's test, but when Iruka got to Naruto and collected his test, he was shocked. Naruto, this is a jonin exam, where did you get this? A jonin exam, really? This was the paper Mizuki-sensei handed me, though I had to get rid of a genjutsu that was cast over it before answering any questions. He replied. Iruka turned and glared at Mizuki and said, we will discuss this later. Alright everyone, outside to the target range. He said. When your name is called, step to the line, pick up 5 shuriken and 5 kunai and throw them at the targets. Iruka said, "An. The rest of the test happened exactly as in the manga anime, so I won't bother writing it." When the test was over, Sasuke made a beeline for the elders and the civilian council chambers. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Kagaya, Midoriko and Madara had arrived to give their reports about their students to the Hokage. Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Kagaya, Midoriko, Madara, it's good to see you again after 6 long years, so tell me what's new. Hiruzen asked. So much that none of us know where to start. Yoruichi said. How about the beginning? That's always a good place. Jiraiya quipped, only to get smacked in the back of the head by Tsunade. Very funny Toad, just wait till I tell your wife you'll never again know the pleasure of sex or feeling of her heavenly mounds as they are squished against your chest. She replied. Jiraiya immediately paled hearing this and begged her not to say anything. Yoruichi grinned that Cheshire grin she was famous for and began giving her report, which being a goddess wasn't required as she didn't answer to him, but considering how her future husband considered him to be his grandfather and since she also respected him, she did so anyway. Well Hiruzen, since you already know about Naru-kun's and Natsumi-chan's progress, telling you about it is a moot point. However, I will say due to their own ignorance Taki is currently nothing more than a dust-filled crater. She said as Hiruzen and Kaharu paled. Explain now, he exclaimed. It is quite simple. On our way home this week we passed by Takigakure and Naruto happened to come upon the Jinchuriki of the 7 tails, this young lady right here being beaten mercilessly by ninja from her own village. She said, pointing to Fu. After Kagaya healed her of her injuries and returned her purity, I made my way to the village and proceeded to kill every last ninja I could find and then level the village. Midoriko said, taking over the explanation. Hiruzen, there is something I think you should know. Kagaya said. Which is? He replied. The members of the Uchiha clan that didn't want to take part in the coup d'etat 8 years ago are still very much alive. She said, shocking everyone there. What? Hiruzen shouted. Yes, about 6 months before the massacre happened, Mikoto and the elders came to me seeking my aid to stop Fugaku. his whore and the rest of the clan from doing what they were planning, and so I did, although not in the way she expected. The clan had approximately 400 members in total, 325 of which were shinobi and the remaining 75 were civilian. Of those 400 members I replaced approximately 157, totaling all the civilians, and 82 Uchiha shinobi with blood clones. After that I sat back and watched while Itachi and Izumi mopped up the remaining 243 clan members. However, I harvested most of the Sharingan that were left for transplantation purposes in case needed. Even Shisui Uchiha is still alive, as he used his abilities in Shunshin to get to Otsutsuki Manor before Danzo could steal both his eyes. Sadly he did get one, but that is no longer of any consequence. Kagaya said. So that many Uchiha are still alive, this is wonderful news, the council must be told. Kaharu said. No need. Danzo's little spy is already on his way to tell his master. No doubt the civilians will be told of the part one played in this deception and be screaming for my head. She replied. You mean Danzo managed to worm his way back into my office? Well, I'll deal with him soon enough. When will the Uchiha clan return? He replied. During the Chunin exams, and you should know that Sasuke Uchiha is not the heir of the Uchiha clan, his step-brother Itachi is. Apparently, Fugaku got a wild notion in his head that if he slept with the strongest female of the cadet branch, with him being this generation's strongest recorded male of the main branch, would produce the heir he always wanted, and Sasuke was the result. Mikoto and rest of the Uchiha want nothing to do with him, and when they return, he will be disowned because of his father's actions. You know, sins of the father and all that crap. Kagaya said. One more thing, Hiruzen, from this day forth Naruto and Natsumi are the heirs of the Otsutsuki clan with all the rights and privileges therein, and henceforth I will neither permit nor tolerate the civilians or elders sticking their noses into our clan affairs. To do so will invite their annihilation, present company excepted of course. She said, looking at Hiruzen and Kaharu. Just then his office door flew open as everyone looked and saw an Anbu standing there. Hokage-sama, the council has called a meeting. He said, then disappeared in a Shunshin. Good grief, this needs to stop. Tsunade, I want you, Kagaya, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Midoriko, Madara and Jiraiya to wait in the shadows in the council chamber. You will know when it's time to make yourselves known. Hiruzen said, getting up and walking to the council chamber with Kaharu following close behind. On their way, Hiruzen snapped his fingers and summoned two Anbu. Neko, there you will inform Enko, Kurenai, Hana and Yakumo Kurama that their presence is requested in the council chambers, and wait for Naruto outside of the tower to make sure he arrives unobstructed. Yes, Hokage-sama, they said, leaving. So Neko must feel good to have Naruto-kun back. Bear said. Yes, it is, the first chance I get he is getting a big kiss from me. She replied. Meanwhile at Otsutsuki Manor, Naruto was laying in the grass in the backyard with three lovely young women next to him when his family returned to the touching scene and decided to leave them be. Ino was occupying his chest, Hinata had taken his right arm with her head on his shoulder, and Satomi had taken his left. Naru-kun, you are being summoned. Ino said. Naruto looked at his fence, and just behind it was a blank masked Anbu with the kanji for ne on the front in the center. Otsutsuki, a council meeting has been called, you will come with me. The Anbu demanded. Two things, 1, I know where the council chambers are, I don't need an escort. And 2, I don't take orders from root scum. Tell your master my response word for word, I want him to know his days are numbered. He said, going back to his ladies. Well, sadly our time has come to an end. He said. What happened, Naru-kun? Satomi asked. I just had a visit from one of Danzo's ilk. A council meeting has been called. Most likely because they now know I have returned, or Sasuke went bitching to them because I wouldn't give him my techniques. He replied. Or both. Ino said. Can we come with you? I don't see why not, however, when we get there you must stand behind your respective clans just in case Danzo or the civilian council tries anything. He replied, getting a nod from each of them. Naruto, Ino, Satomi and Hinata disappeared in a flash step and were standing outside council chambers and were about to enter when two root agents stopped him and demanded his weapons, more specifically the sword of his left side. His response was to promptly remove their heads. Neither one of his ladies batted an eye at the gruesome scene, as they knew all about Danzo and Root from their parents and really didn't like them at all, so to see their fiancé kill two root agents in cold blood without hesitation was kind of a turn on for them. Just then Naruto kicked the council chamber doors off its hinges and announced himself. What the hell do you fuckers want? Be silent, demon, we are the council, we own you and you will show us proper respect. One fat councilman shouted only for Naruto to brutally kill him right then. The demon killed a member of the council. Anbu. Kill the creature before he kills us all. Another ignorant council member shouted. 10 root agents jumped out of the shadows and drew their weapons. Then, much to the shock of the grinning and greedy civilian council members, a bright flash of white light occurred and the root agents were sent through the air as after images of Naruto were seen beheading each one. Think Yoruichi's fight with Soifun during the Soul Society arc, it's the same technique. Just then Naruto appeared in front of the civilian council and immediately killed the last councilman that called him a demon and said, "Are you worthless bugs done wasting my time? If so, I'm going home." Actually, Naruto, we called you here for 2 reasons. 1. Some people wanted to say hello to you, and 2. One Sasuke Uchiha has claimed that you stole Uchiha clan techniques from his clan library. But first, ladies, here is and said. Naruto was tackled by Tsunade, Hana, Yugao, Kurenai, Anko, Yakumo, Kurama and Mebuki, and Rose Haruno giving him hugs and kisses and welcoming him home. Just then the yell of a councilman rang out throughout the room. Mebuki, Rose, what is the meaning of this? Remove yourself from that thing this instance. Be quiet. You were always a fool, Arashi. There was a time that I loved you, but after the Kyuubi attacked 14 years ago you changed and shortly after started attacking Naruto-kun for no reason. It was then that Rose and I started distancing myself from you, and then I discovered that you were the one that orchestrated the mob that attacked Naruto-kun when he was 8 that almost killed him. That was when I decided that I no longer loved you and started to plan for my divorce from you. As of this moment, commoner scum, you are no longer part of the Haruno family. Mebuki said. Okawa-chan, why? Sakura asked. Sakura-chan, come here, sweetie. You see, between myself and your father I was of noble birth and your father was a commoner. When we married, clan law dictated that when he married into our family that he shed his family name and take the Haruno name, as I was clan heir and next in line to be head, and he would be clan head in name only. In our marriage agreement there was a clause that stated that in the event of a divorce that your father was to lose his parental rights and be banished from the clan with only what brought into the marriage and nothing more. As of this moment that thing is no longer your father due to violating our most basic tenet. He took part in the neglect and physical abuse of a child, and not just any child, the son of Kagaya Otsutsuki, or as we all knew her, Kushina Uzumaki, and my godson. K. Sakura's redemption right here. You mean? Sakura asked with a gleam in her eye. Yes, Sakura-chan, since Naruto-kun is my godson, that makes you and Rose his god siblings. Since he is a week older than you, he is technically your older brother in all but blood. She said, knowing that Sakura was happy as she always wanted a brother, and she promptly gave Naruto a hug. The silence in the room was palpable as no one knew any of this. The shock came when the reveal of Naruto's mother came to light, as everyone knew who Kagaya Otsutsuki was. She was the mother of chakra and a goddess, making Naruto a demigod and grandson of Amaterasu, or as everyone knew her, Kami. What remained of the civilian council and the elders Danzo and Homura already had an ace in hole, or at least they thought they did, and being the greedy bastards they were, decided to bring it up. I mean, Sasuke was getting his techniques, why not take their pound of flesh as well? Alright Naruto, now that is done, we have other business. Hiruzen said. Oh right. The ignorant little crow thinks I will give him what he wants simply because of his family name. Honestly, the answer to such ludicrous demands is no. I will not give him my techniques, I will not teach him my techniques, and no, I didn't steal them, as they were always in the possession of my clan, and with my clan they will stay, and that is final. If we're done here I'm going home. Naruto said. Just a minute boy, you do have quite a few things that don't belong to you and we want them returned. Danzo said. Oh, and what would that be? As far as I know everything in my possession belongs to me, so I have no idea what you could be talking about. Naruto said with a devilish smirk. I'll handle this one, Naru-kun. Kagaya said as she and Tsunade, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Midoriko, Madara and Jiraiya appeared from hiding places within the council chambers. To be continued. Chapter 5. Angry Slugs, Introductions and Blades given. Previously on Naruto, Konoha's Jubi no Kitsune. Oh right. The ignorant little crow thinks I will give him what he wants simply because of his family name. Honestly, the answer to such ludicrous demands is no. I will not give him my techniques, I will not teach him my techniques, and no, I didn't steal them, as they were always in the possession of my clan, and with my clan they will stay, and that is final. If we're done here, I'm going home. Naruto said. Just a minute, boy, you do have quite a few things that don't belong to you and we want them returned. Danzo said. Oh, and what would that be? As far as I know, everything in my possession belongs to me, so I have no idea what you could be talking about. Naruto said with a devilish smirk. I'll handle this one, Naru-kun. Kagaya said as she and Tsunade, Kikyo, Akane, Yoruichi, Midoriko, Madara and Jiraiya appeared from hiding places within the council chambers. Present. Just what does my son have that you claim belongs to you, Danzo? Kagaya asked. Before he died, your husband made an agreement with all of us that your estate and all monetary assets would become the property of Konoha for us to do with as we please, and we have the written agreements to prove it. Danzo said with an arrogant smirk. You mean these agreements? Kagaya said, producing a sealed scroll, noting the look of shock on the Warhawk's face. Danzo, you and the rest of the idiots in this room failed to realize one very important thing. And that would be? He asked. Oh, nothing much, just the fact that since I was and always have been the head of the Otsutsuki clan and Minato was the head only on paper, you are not entitled to anything. She said as she burned the scroll in her hand, destroying any proof of the documents the scroll contained. What have you done? One of the civilian counselors screamed. We needed that money for the civilians. Fool. Since none of you know clan laws, allow me to give you a crash course. My clan, the Otsutsuki, was the first shinobi clan of this world, as well as the progenitor of every Kekkei Genkei in existence, and in terms of noble status we are higher than even the daimyo of Hai no Kuni, as is the branch clans under our banner, whereas the Namikaze is a very low-level noble clan. Compared to us, they are nothing more than commoners. When we married, he took my name instead of me taking his, therefore making him the head of the branch family with no real authority beyond that, since the overall decisions on the direction the clan took in the present as well as the future still rested with me as the true head of the clan. When Minato made those agreements with you all, he not only challenged my rights and status as head of the clan but also that of my children as my heirs. Were he not already dead, I would kill him myself. Kagaya said. Anbu. Kill this whore. A civilian council member shouted. As three Anbu made their move, the Hokage made his and killed the offending Anbu and civilian that gave the order. Hiruzen, what is the meaning of this? You just killed your own ninja. Homura shouted. Wrong, and it's Hokage-sama to you. The ninja of this village answer to me and me alone. Any ninja that follows the orders of the civilian council is not one mine and will be killed on charges of treason, just as those three were. I am Hokage, my word is law. This is a ninja village, and as such it is a dictatorship, not a democracy. Is that clear, Homura? Hiruzen replied. Yes, Hokage-sama. He replied. But Hokage-sama, what about our agreements with Minato? As the agreements were not legal in the first place, they are null and void, he said. When he said this, the civilian half of the council erupted into chaos. Silence. Since Minato was not head of the main branch of the clan and just the head of the branch family, it was not legal under Konoha law for him to enter into any agreement with any of you on behalf of the clan, and the moment he did constituted as treason against the clan and against Konoha for such a gross violation of our laws. Each and every one of you knows the laws just as I do, and the moment you signed those agreements it was considered treasonous, and as such, I could have all of you executed right here. However, as I am merciful, I shall refrain. I did not, however, say that Tsunade couldn't punish you for your crimes against her. He said. Hiruzen, what crimes did we commit against Tsunade? Danzo asked. That's Hokage-sama to Danzo, but since we are on the subject, why don't I let Tsunade tell you herself? He said as everyone looked at the Slug Queen. You want to know what crimes you committed against me, do you? Well, 14 years ago on the night of October 10th, the day the Kyuubi attacked, you told me my fiancé was dead, and then for 8 long years ensured I stayed away so you could beat him to near death when you were in the mood. She yelled as everyone now understood what she was referring to. What happened next shocked everyone as no one was expecting it. She immediately flared her ki and proceeded to give them 8 years of beatings Naruto endured back 100-fold. All anyone heard was the sound of flesh hitting flesh, bones cracking and blood splattering on the floor of the council chambers. When she was done with one session, she healed them and started again. This continued for what seemed like an eternity, but in actuality only 15 minutes had passed. Feel better, Haim? Naruto asked as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. Much. was all she said as stood there enjoying the feeling of Naruto's strong arms wrapped around her. Danzo awoke after being healed for the final time and glared at Kagaya, which she caught. Yes, Danzo, you look like you have something to say, she said, already knowing what he was thinking. Danzo looked at her with a smirk and said, why don't you tell everyone your part in the Uchiha massacre, as you are just as guilty as Itachi and Izumi for the events of that night. She looked at the Hokage and said, see, I told you he was listening. The Hokage and Kaharu just gave a mirthful chuckle, all the while shaking their heads. Danzo, you must mean the fact that I saved 157 members of the Uchiha clan and moved them outside the village and watched while Itachi and his sister Izumi disposed of the rest. Or the fact that they will be returning during the Chunin exams, or possibly the fact that Mikoto Uchiha, the current head of the Uchiha clan, is planning on disowning Sasuke because her bastard husband cheated on her with an Uchiha branch family whore. Tell me, Danzo, is that what you wanted to know? She replied. What? Sasuke-sama is our savior and you whore will be put to death for your part in this. Homura exclaimed, only to come face to face with the point of Naruto's blade. No, she won't be, and if you threaten my mother again or anyone I care about for that matter, I will kill you. Naruto said as his eyes took on an ominous red glow. Gigi, can I go now? Yes, Naruto-kun, as the meeting is over you may go, but remember you have team assignments in 1 week, don't forget. He said. I won't forget, Gigi, see you later. Naruto said as he and his ladies made a beeline for the Otsutsuki estate. 1 week later. Naruto, Natsumi and Sakura walked into the academy classroom and immediately moved to sit next to their friends, shocking the members of Sasuke's fan club when Sakura didn't acknowledge him as they were too engrossed in the events that took place after the graduation exam a week prior. Flashback. The graduation exam ended and Naruto and Natsumi were made shinobi and kunoichi of the year, which didn't set well with the resident emo. What? I'm an Uchiha, an elite, that title is mine, not some no-name loser that just showed up out of nowhere. Sasuke shouted. Yeah, same goes for me and the whore. One of Sasuke's fangirls shouted. Sorry you two, but Naruto and Natsumi just scored higher than you. Iruka said with a smirk, taking pride in Sasuke's reaction to that bit of news. Not one to take no for an answer, Sasuke got up and before anyone could stop him flashed through hand signs and said, fire style. Fireball Jutsu. With the attack aimed directly at Naruto and Natsumi, Naruto had to think fast and do the one thing he had hoped he wouldn't have to do, at least in front of Sasuke. He drew his sword and said, Okiro, Benihime, Chikasumi no Tate. Awaken, Crimson Princess, Blood Mist Shield, producing a crimson energy shield that had everyone mesmerized in shock and awe. Naruto. What is that? Iruka asked. This blade is called a Zanpakuto, and this shield is a defensive technique produced by the blade that I can call upon when needed. Naruto said, dispelling the shield and sealing Benihime. What is a dobi like him doing with such a blade? Only an Uchiha should wield such power. I'll demand it from him and all his techniques so I can kill my brother and sister. Sasuke thought as he walked up to Naruto with his hand out. Something I can help you with, Uke-chan? Naruto asked with a grin. Yeah. You can give me that blade and all your techniques as they rightfully belong to an Uchiha elite like me. Sasuke declared. Let me think, how about no? Naruto replied. Then I'll take them. Sasuke shouted and reached for the blade. As soon as his hand touched Benihime's hilt, a burst of energy came from the sword and cut his hand, causing him to leer back and scream in pain. What did you do to me? He screamed. Me? Why, I didn't do anything to you, that was all Benihime. You see, Benihime is a sentient sword and she can decide whom she allows to wield her, and she has deemed you unworthy. Besides, even if she deemed you worthy, and that is a pretty big if, you couldn't use her effectively anyway, as unlike me you do not have the needed skills and training required to tap into Ryoku. Naruto replied. Naruto-kun, what is this Ryoku thingy? Ino asked. Ino-chan, Ryoku is the spiritual energy component of chakra and is a far more potent form of energy than chakra alone, allowing the wielder to perform techniques that makes the Hiraishin, a technique originally developed by the second Hokage and made infamous by the fourth. Do his use of it look slow in comparison? Naruto said, shocking everyone, including oddly enough Sasuke and Kiba, into silence, considering both had a habit of shooting their mouths off. This isn't over, Dobi. I will go to the council with this and they'll make you give me what I want, count on it. An enraged Sasuke said. Ni-san, I thought you said you'd kill him if he did this again. Natsumi said. You are correct, I did. However, thinking back on it, I've realized that if I leave him alone, he'll most likely get himself killed before I could do anything. Besides, I gave Hokage Gigi my word that I personally wouldn't act unless he really fucked up, which he hasn't yet, but rest assured he will, and when he does, I will remove his head. Although, I may not have to anyway. Once the true facts about the massacre come to light, all his support will go away anyway, so I'll just sit back and watch as he self-destructs on his own. Naruto said with a grin resulting in a glare from Sasuke. Flashback end. Iruka and Mizuki walked in and saw that everyone was in an uproar. Having had enough, used his big head jutsu to shut everyone up. Be quiet. All of you. You are shinobi, not children, act like it. Now, if all of you will shut up, I'll tell you what teams you will be on. Teams 1 through 6 are unimportant. Team 7 is Sasuke Uchiha, Saishimura and Amy Ishikawa. Your Jonin sensei is Kakashi Hatake. Team 8 Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburame. Your Jonin sensei is Kurenai Yuhi. Yes. I got Hinata-chan, and you don't. What do you think of that Dobi? Now I can make her mine. Kiba shouted. Kiba. Hinata shouted with her Byakugan on full blast, getting his attention. If you try anything, I'll neuter you slowly with a rusty kunai. With a sadistic grin on her face, Hinata took note of how quickly every male in the room save for Naruto crossed their legs. Now that the class idiot has shut his mouth, I'll continue. Iruka said. Team 9 is still in circulation. Team 10 is Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamichi. Your Jonin sensei is Asuma Sarutobi, and finally, due to their scores, Team 11 is Naruto Otsutsuki, Natsumi Otsutsuki, Sakura Haruno, Yakumo Kurama and Satomi Hyuga. Your Jonin senseis are Anko Midarashi, Midoriko Uchiha, Yugao Izuki and Naruko Otsutsuki. I wish all you good luck and good fortune on your careers. Iruka finished as Mizuki left. Before leaving, Mizuki looked back at Sasuke, knowing how pissed the little brooding emo was at Naruto getting special treatment, and hatched a plan to use him. He would get the forbidden scroll and deliver the little brat to Orochimaru. 2 birds, 1 stone, if he only knew how that plan would blow up in his face. Immediately after Iruka and Mizuki left, Naruto and his teammates got up to leave. Where are going, Dobi? Sasuke asked. My teammates and I are going back to Otsutsuki Manor to meet up with our senseis, not that it is any of your business. Naruto replied as he and his teammates left. As they left, they ran into the other senseis, well, everyone except Kakashi, and stopped to warn them. Kurenai sensei, Asuma sensei. He greeted. Naruto, you and Natsumi are doing well, I hope. Asuma said. Yeah, but I needed to warn you. Keep your eye out for Kiba and Sasuke respectively. They seem to have a very large entitlement complex and believe they can do whatever they want to whomever they want, and I am afraid they'll go after Ino and Hinata. Don't turn your back on either of them. Oh, and bring your teams by Otsutsuki Manor later. And Kurenai, leave Kiba at home. He said, getting nods from both, and went on his way. Mom, I'm back and I brought my team. Naruto said as he entered his home. Naru-kun, Yugao shouted as she gave him a hug and a kiss. I was so happy you came back. She screamed as she pushed Naruto's head into the heavenly valley that was her cleavage. I missed you too, Yu-chan. He replied. Okay, Yugao-chan, you can hug him to death later, for now we have something important to take of. Enko said, getting a pout from Yugao before she let go of Naruto. Alright Gakis, we need to get to know each other. Enko said. Naruto-kun, you're first. Alright. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha Senju Otsutsuki. I like my family, friends, fiancés, training, creating new techniques, ramen and dango. I hate arrogant fools, rapists, most of the civilian and elder council, as well as most of Konoha, for ruining my childhood. Naruto said as Anko and Yugao, Yakumo and Satomi blushed, while Sakura, Natsumi, Midoriko and Naruko just smiled. Alright Natsumi, your turn. Yugao said. Alright. My name is Natsumi Uzumaki Uchiha Senju Otsutsuki. I like my friends, sisters Naruko, Sakura and my soon-to-be sisters Anko ne, Yugao ne, Satomi ne and Yakumo ne, training, creating new techniques, and Midoriko Oba-chan's beef teriyaki with stir-fry. I hate arrogant fools like our resident gay emo duck but Uchiha, Kiba Inuzuka, Neji Hyuga, the civilian council, most of the elder council, arrogant power-hungry fools, rapists, and most of Konoha for their treatment of my big brother. she said as her grandmother and her big sister Naruto smiled at her. Alright Sakura, you're up. Naruto said. My name is Sakura Haruno. I love my mother. I like my friends, as well as my teammates and senseis with whom I am looking forward to working with to become a great kunoichi like Tsunade-sama. I hate my father and the civilian council as well as Danzo and Homura from the elder council. She said. Alright Yakumo, Satomi, you are next. Midoriko said. My name is Yakumo Kurama. My likes and dislikes are the same as everyone else, the only difference would be that my hobby is painting pictures in my free time. She said. My name is Satomi Hyuga. I love my family including my fiancé and soon-to-be sisters. I hate the Hyuga Elder Council except for my grandparents whom I dearly love. I also hate my cousin Neji and wish to kill him for personal reasons I will not discuss. I also hate the Civilian Council and most of the Elder Council for their constant interference in my family's affairs and the death of my uncle which Neji blames on my sister Hinata and I while showing cruelty to little Hanabi at the same time, which is part of the reason I want him dead. Like my sister Hinata, I enjoy spending time with little Hanabi, flower pressing and training with my family's gentle fist style. Satomi said. Alright, no, before you go you will all follow Naruto to a special place here within Otsutsuki Manor and meet back here for training tomorrow at 7 AM sharp, you are dismissed. Midoriko said as they all followed Naruto to a large door that led to the armory. Alright you lot, while this doesn't apply to Naruto and Natsumi because they have already done what the rest of you are about to. Now once you enter you will see swords lining the wall. Those blades are called Zanpakuto. They are sentient blades and they will make the determination on whether or not you are worthy to wield them. If you will hear a voice calling out to you. That voice will speak a name. Call the name aloud to make a bond with the blade. Also, some of them have the ability to bestow a Kekkei Genkei upon the wielder if the right elemental affinities are present, so don't be surprised if you lose consciousness while you're in there. Naruto said. Naruto-sensei, what happens if we aren't worthy of receiving one of the blades on the wall? Yakumo asked. Then you will be given a blank or nameless sword called an asachi which you will use to forge your own unique blade. The exact process used is something that will be discussed should that happen. Naruto replied as they all went into the room. Upon entering, all of them except Sakura and Anko heard the call of a Zanpakuto. Anko and Sakura left and were given an asachi and instructions about Jinzen and how to perform it and told to meditate. Upon being given that information, Sakura said, Naruto-sensei, how come we have to forge our own Zanpakuto while the others don't? The reason, Sakura-chan, is that they didn't already have one while you and Anko did. You just didn't have the proper medium to bring it out. That is what the asachi are for. Now go to the training dojo and meditate. She replied, and so they did. A few minutes later the others came out holding their new blades. When asked what happened, they told Naruto exactly what happened. Hinata received the Zanpakuto Soda no Shirayuki, and due to the fact that she possessed both a water and wind affinity, she was given a Hyoten Kekkei Genkei, so using her new blade would be easier. However, she also received something else. When she awoke, she saw two beautiful flower-like hair pins come towards her, and then 6 cute little fairies poofed into existence and addressed themselves as the Shun Shun Rika. They told her that she was the reincarnation of their previous master Orihime Inoue, and while normally they would never allow her to have a Shinigami's blade because the blade in question was once wielded by a close friend of Orihime's, and because she possessed qualities of the blade's former master as well, it wouldn't be an issue. Satomi a massive water affinity, so much so that it made the Nadaime Hokage look like a child in comparison. Because of this, she gained possession of the Zanpakuto Nejibana and a water-based Kekkei Genkei called Genshi Ryutai Atsu, or atmospheric hydro pressure, but due to the massive mouthful she decided she would just hydro style and would practice in secret away from the Hyuga Elder Council so as not to cause problems, much like her sister Hinata would. Due to Yugao's extreme speed in combat, she received the Zanpakuto Shinso because of the speed of its extension and retraction, something Yugao could very easily exploit to her advantage in combat. Yakumo received the Zanpakuto Muramasa, and she didn't receive a Kekkei Genkei, mostly because she already had one. She could use Muramasa to manifest the instincts of her opponent and thereby cause them to fight against themselves, and because Muramasa killed and consumed the powers of the demon Ito dwelling deep within her soul, it gave he a new ability called Akumu no Michi, or Nightmare Road, which would allow Yakumo to manifest the nightmares of her opponents to fight them, and considering her already extensive knowledge of Genjutsu, it just Muramasa's abilities all the more terrifying. When they were done explaining what happened in walked Enko and Sakura and they explained the name of their Zanpakuto too. Enko's was named Habi no Ojo. In its sealed form it was a single-bladed katana, but in Shikai it became a dual-bladed katana and giving it the appearance of snake's fangs. The Shikai only had two abilities that were constantly active, one called Dokuga or Poison Fang, which as the name suggests the blade was coated in an extremely fast-acting and lethal neurotoxin and no strike meant instant death. The next ability was called Slither and gave Enko an increase in speed, increasing her already impressive speed and reflexes, and also gave her the Kekkei Genkei swift release to increase her speed even further. Sakura's was called Chikyu no Megami or Goddess of Earth due to her extremely high earth affinity, and its Shikai took the form of two gauntlets on her arms that gave her absolute of the earth around her. When she asked Chikyu no Megami about it, she was told the ability was always active and called Chikyu Major Earth Bending. Sorry, couldn't resist. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. After explanations were given, everyone went home for the day with their new blades and dared anyone to cause them problems. 2 weeks later. After 2 weeks of intense training they were finally ready for a mission outside the village, and the Hokage agreed, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Ah, Team 11 perfect, just the team I was looking. I was actually getting ready to send for you. The Hokage said. What's wrong, Gigi? Naruto asked. Team 7 got themselves in jam, so I am sending you along with Team 8 to the Land of Waves. Midoriko, since you're senior you will take charge as the on-scene commander with Naruto as your second when you arrive. He said. Hi, Hokage-sama. She replied. Gigi, who could give Kakashi a problem? Don't get me wrong, I hate the bastard's guts and have been looking for an excuse to kill him for weeks, but given his strength and status as an elite Jonin I am curious. Naruto replied. According to the letter he sent, it is Zabuza Momochi with his apprentice. He replied. After those words were said, Naruto and Natsumi raced out of the room worried and angry. If you enjoyed this What If story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fox Fan Fiction Heart. Your support keeps these stories alive. Comment below which What If you want next, and who knows, your idea might be our next video.